So, one big issue that a lot of people have been talking about is how to prevent another such financial crisis. And what a lot of people say is that rather than taking away all of the limited liability and the implicit protections that these banks have, the sort of protections that cause them to engage in risky behavior, instead of cutting that, they say that if the government would just more strictly regulate its money supply, if it would more strictly enforce the regulations it already has, that would also prevent a financial crisis. And while that is the case, it seems as if we've gotten to a point of letting banks leverage and sort of create bank money. We've let them run wild with that concept, and any sort of confiscation of that right will sort of cause a discouragement of foreign direct investment into this country. And that seems to be the real problem, a sort of struggle between strict regulation or the sort of capital certainty and gains that come with allowing banks to have larger leverage and more easy credit. And what people don't realize is that the problem is actually that there isn't enough currency competition. People say, well, if an alternative currency was going to work, it would have worked by now, but they don't understand that there's a lot of laws and taxes that prevent private banks from minting their own coins and putting out their own money. And the interesting thing about currency competition and having choice of which currency to use is that there would be money that was safer, and there would be money that was sort of more of the sort of Wall Street leverage, no regulation money. And it would just be your choice to choose which type of money to use, whereas now we're forced to use the US dollar in everything. In every debt that we have, it is acceptable. But if there's going to be a need to have this level of leverage and fractional reserve banking that we have, the only thing that could possibly keep that in check is to have competing currencies. And when people talk about free banking, they just think it's archaic. They just think, oh, we're going back to the days of Jackson. But in reality, the amount of competition that would provide would be good, because it would the firms and the banks that put out safer money, the ones that required higher reserve requirements, the ones that actually had some sort of store of value behind their money, that currency would inflate less and it would be more valuable, and people would flee to that. People would go to that currency and start using it. And of course, people would want to use the money that had less regulations too, because it would allow them more room to artificially increase the money stock with bank loans and credit. But that money, if that money failed, if there was some crisis that was caused from irresponsible amounts of leverage and investment, then it would only affect that one currency, and it would punish the people who chose to use that currency. And it would have been their own decision to choose a currency that didn't have a stricter regulation. But if we were holding on to currency that was more fully backed by reserves and by assets, then that wouldn't have been a problem. Because there would have been an alternative to the sort of Wall Street gambling sort of non-regulated money.